Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another special edition Podapalooza episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your host, and I'm here with Ash Wilder. Ash, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you here. This is a complete impromptu episode. And so I don't even have a bio to introduce you or anything about you. So I'm just going to dive right in and ask you to introduce yourself and start to share your story.
Great. So my name is Ash Wilder. I run a school called the Story Breath School. And this is basically writing school for highly sensitive people, maybe neurodivergent, maybe people who are dealing with some sort of autoimmune thing that affects their ability to be effortful. It's a communication place for them. It's a really fun, exciting way to invite your muse back to your writing desk out of your neighbor's hot tub.
I love that. I love the whole idea of that because writing can be so therapeutic. I mean, you think about all the people that use journaling, myself included, to kind of release emotions, explore what's going on within. And so teaching this specifically to those that, may struggle in mainstream education is a beautiful thing. So where is this school located? Tell me more about it and how you got into this.
Great. Yeah. So this school is all online. And yeah, we really do focus on, writing classes have been built in kind of this academia-based system. And that can be really intimidating. It can also be inaccessible for certain people, depending on how they learn, how they want to communicate, how their bodies function. So this is a very spacious and open way of learning that stuff. I like to preface it by saying it's like going to a cooking class. You don't have to know anything. You don't even have to get it right. You might ruin the recipe and order takeout later, and it's so fine. But the goal of this is to just pull out all of the ingredients, lay them out on the counter, and try to make something without worried about what you're making.
I love that because it's just the freedom to explore. And it takes all the pressure off because there's no demands that there has to be a certain outcome.
Right. And when we're being in a fun and pleasurable place inside of exploration, and we do that often enough, well, guess what? It turns into practice. We end up growing our skills and our abilities without that being the focus of what we're doing. We're not studying for an exam here. We're just having a party with language. We're learning to poeticize it. So it's a really great place.
I love that. So it's available online, which I also love because that's super accessible to everybody these days. And, are there set class times or is it more self-guided or explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So as a highly sensitive person, I don't usually do self-guided things online because I feel like I want that relationship with the person who built the thing. So once a month, we do Seaweed Summons, and this is a free, open to the public workshop that focuses on a specific part of languaging, either for connection with ourselves or for connection with others. We might do this through storytelling or fiction writing or poetry or journaling. It just kind of depends on the month. And then twice a year, we have a spring poetry course in the spring called Rainwater Records, and then a fall poetry course called Tender Transitions. And both of these are where to go to own your voice, to kind of discover what your mythopoetic has to say. And then the third option is one-on-one coaching, which is, similar to this stuff. It's very open, spacious. My clients aren't looking for a right answer for me. We're searching their creative process for the jewels, for the things that are really nourishing and restful and exciting for them. And we build a program to either take their craft to the next level or take their communication to the next level, whatever that is for them.
I love it. So much freedom to meet each and every person where they're at. So some of it's group options, some of it's one-to-one. And is this for adults? Is it for kids or teens, or what are the ages that you work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for adults primarily, and then every once in a while, if there's a group of parents or a certain kid that, really is just driven in this work, I make space for that. But my ideal client, as my business is set up, which we know is, a little bit artificial but important,
yes.
Is adults. And I would like to say too that inside of this poetry course, I know we hear poetry and we might think like, or feel that intimidation kind of flood our nervous system. And this is a poetry course for poets and wannabe poets. It's really like a place for intuitive, soul deep exploration through the form of poetry, both reading and writing. So it's pretty open.
And possibly for people who didn't even know that they were even a wannabe poet, but they were just looking to explore and create. So
yeah,
I love it. So what led you to this? Like, what's your journey that got here to creating this for others?
Yeah, so my health journey has been kind of interesting. I had some weird fertility stuff kind of through high school, and just a tendency of breaking bones. So I had this kind of dichotomy in my personality of wanting to be athletic, be out there, be going after it, be doing these things that my brothers did. I have 5 of them.
Wow.
And then also, being slow and writing and being introspective. And so those push pulls of this yang energy and this yin energy, it's always kind of been there. And then over the past 6 years, I just was really struggling, and my energy was going down. My metabolism was through the roof. I was having ovarian cyst ruptures happen a lot, and I was also navigating and exploring a pretty new landscape of PTSD that I had just kind of discovered might be at the root of some of this stuff. And, went to a bunch of different doctors about it. We couldn't really figure it out. I was being offered solutions that weren't really it. And then, actually pretty recently in February this last year, I went into the ER with what I thought was just very severe heartburn. I hadn't had it before. I didn't know. I thought maybe they were just going to laugh me out and be like, go home, take a Pepto, sleep it off, But with somebody who has been dealing with these health things for a few years, I'm pretty healthy. So it really didn't, add up. And I got to the ER and they did take it very seriously. And they saw some things in my intestines and my stomach that they didn't really know what they were. So they were running more tests. And at the end of all of those tests, they discovered that I've been carrying around a parasite for 6 years that has just been wreaking havoc on all of my systems. And so in February, life stopped. And before that, I had a coaching business where I was really working with middle upper management, CEOs, personally development, goal oriented based. And after this diagnosis and going through, the parasite clearing and repopulating my gut and all of the things I'm sure your listeners know about so well, I just didn't have the energy to be there, and realized how it wasn't like I needed to be more disciplined or get into a habit that was going to help me be there, but I just wasn't pulled that direction. I would be a more easeful and pleasureful life for me if I moved more towards writing, this love that I've had for so long. So in February is really when the Story Breath School pointed specifically towards writing, and we've been building out these offerings ever since. So that's
Well, I love, thanks for sharing that. And though it's a difficult journey, it's brought amazing support to others as well as to yourself in your own healing by creating this. And so I love that you've taken that difficult journey and turned it into something that helps others. And it's interesting you're talking about parasites because I literally have one of my little health hack mini episodes coming out in the next little bit talking about parasites and how common they are in North America. 30% of the population has them, and many of those people don't realize it. And they can be hard to detect, which is why when I do my functional medicine lab testing, we do a 3-day test because it just increases your chances of finding it so that then we can do protocols to remove it, etc. And so it happens and we travel to other places, but we can get them right here at home as well. And if you have symptoms, you said you're going to the doctors and they can't figure out what's wrong, and look deeper. And that's where doing some of the tests on the holistic side can really help you. So I'm glad you found it. I'm glad you got rid of it.
Yeah. And what was interesting about that journey for me was that the typical parasite symptoms weren't showing up for me, or I was so good at modifying my diet and behaviors that it was all menstruation related.
Right.
And so at one point I went to a doctor and she was like, you can have an ablation or you can get on hormonal birth control. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like we're missing something. And then it was like 8 months later that this finally boiled over in my body. So, yeah.
So good for you because you too were listening to your body and choosing the right decisions for you, as opposed to sometimes we just get given these band-aid solutions to give you something, even if it doesn't make sense, to feel like you're getting something and then it doesn't help. And a month later, you're like, well, that's made no difference. What's next? Right. So you were listening. So thank you for sharing all of this. And I love to ask all of my guests this question. What does don't wait for your wake-up call mean to you?
Honestly, in this case, because of this conversation, it's like, why didn't I go to a naturopath sooner? Like, why was I forcing myself into this system that really I knew wasn't working for me, but I was just hopeful for it? I think that maybe this would have been discovered and avoided and evolved at a different rate. So I wish I would have listened to my intuitive guidance system a little bit earlier.
And now you learn from that and you will do that moving forward. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Now, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you regarding your school, etc., what's the best way for people to reach out and connect?
Yeah, so I am social media free. So everything is via podcast interviews and at my website, storybreathschool.com.
Fabulous. Storybreathschool.com. I will make sure that is in the show notes for everybody. And any last tip you'd like to leave the audience with today?
I hope whatever you're dealing with, you give yourself space to play with language, even if it's just a timer for 5 minutes and it makes no sense at the end. I hope you just give yourself a chance to be there.
I love that. Thank you so much for jumping into this interview here, Ash. It's been great to meet you and learn about your work. And thank you to my audience for always tuning in and listening. I appreciate you. Are you a practitioner or a coach listening to this? If so, I would love to ask you, do you use hypnotherapy in your practice working with clients? And if not, would you like to? The power of hypnotherapy is limitless. And so often we experience our clients struggling to reach their goals. It's because they're coming up against their own brick walls and getting stuck. But you can help them through the power of hypnosis break through all of that, working with their unconscious mind to put the suggestions in, to have them taking the action to achieve the results that they want. They are thrilled with your coaching techniques. They're getting the results they want. You feel amazing because you are helping your client get the results they want. It's a win-win, And another win is that it's an added revenue stream for you in your business. So if you like the feel of helping your clients get the results they want, if you like the sound of that, then definitely reach out, Melissa at yourguidedhealthjourney.com, or click the Linktree link below for my Unlimited Power of Hypnosis class to learn more. It's a weekend designation program that I teach, valid in 42 countries. You write an exam after taking the experiential course, and you can be admitted to the American Board of Hypnotherapy and start using hypnotherapy one-to-one with your clients and have them achieving the results they want. Welcome back to another Podapalooza special episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your host, and excited to be here with you today, Angie Langley. How are you doing?
I am doing great. This is so exciting. It's my first Podapalooza. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I love that you're here, and thanks for jumping in and hopping on all these podcasts. And to introduce you to the audience, Angie is known as the happiness expert, which I absolutely love. She specializes in intuitive healing, energy healing, and trauma healing. Angie helps women who find themselves facing trauma and loss to have an amazing breakthrough into their happiness so they can magnetize the life they always dreamed of and be the person they want to be. So, Angie, tell me, how did you get into this line of work?
Actually, it was by accident.
As is so often the case, and I love the stories, which is why I always ask this question.
I had a very traumatic childhood, and of course, being married and my husband's been ill for over 20 some years. So it's been difficult. And I just got so down and so low that to the point where I didn't really want to be here.
Right.
And I used to be a home support worker. And so where I went to everyone's house to look after them. Mm-hmm. So I was on my way to work one day, and I live out in the country. And here, this big 18-wheeler, like one of the milk trucks that go to the local farms to grab the milk. Well, it was coming towards me, and it was in the middle of the road. And I drove a half-ton truck. So I was like, he doesn't even see me. Like, he's not even moving over, right? I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to get around him. And I was like, well, if I'm going to meet my maker, today's the day. And I put my foot on the gas, and I do not remember anything else, nothing else, until I looked in my side mirror, and the truck was behind me, and he was still in the middle of the road.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, I'm here for a reason, and I have to find out what it is. So I always, all my clients used to say, I used to bring sunshine to them. I always made them laugh and made them feel better. And so I started healing myself because of my own trauma. And therapy just wasn't me.
Right.
So I do everything unconditionally. So it was like I had to learn intuitive healing and Reiki. And now I have my own modality that I do to help women to actually release that trauma that they have embedded in their body. So, yeah.
And of course, that trauma is deeply embedded in the body. I'm NLP trained, timeline therapy trained, hypnotherapy trained. And so we know that our unconscious mind and our body stores every experience that we've ever had in our life. Mm-hmm. And the unconscious mind doesn't bring much of that forth to the conscious mind to even be able to release until it deems that it's safe to do so.
That's true.
And so, working with someone like you to help you get to that point and then be able to release it is so, so important. But I also want to just go back to a little bit earlier part of your story and just highlight the traumatic childhood. And then on top of that, caring for a husband that's been sick for so long, like it just builds slowly over time. And you don't realize that kind of steady decline into that kind of depressed state, right? Because we are impacted by those around us. right? We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So if we're spending time with sick people, then that kind of tends to bring us down. And as a home worker, you're going into people's homes and supporting them, but they're all sick as well, right? So I can imagine how this built and built and built for you through your home life, through your work life, from your childhood. But how incredible that people were still telling you you were bringing them sunshine. So that's amazing. And I love that. And from that, you've stepped into and found your purpose and your passion as a happiness expert and continuing to bring happiness. And so you're one of the 5 people now that are impacting others in their lives and lifting them up. And that is amazing. So share more about your work today.
Right now, I have a ultimate happiness blueprint that I guide women to. So I take them out of their sadness and into their happiness in 1 year.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah. So they have like years of trauma and loss and baggage, right? And sometimes it's generational. Sometimes it's even past life. Yeah. So I've had to deal with some things in my past life that I had no idea. Like those wrought iron gates that they have with the spikes on it. I used to shiver every time I seen those, and I had no idea why.
Right.
So I found out in a past life that I was a soldier, and I was walking along with a spear, and it went through one ear and out the other, and that's how I died. So it was like it kept going through all these, lives that I was coming through. So, but now they don't bother me anymore because I've got rid of that. So, so I help women realize that this is why they're so sick. This is why they have anxiety. I had a woman come to me and she was bipolar. And I said, "Is your mom bipolar too?" And she said, "Yeah, she is." Because she didn't realize like why she was and why I would ask, right? And I was like, okay, let's go back and see how far it goes. So I went and I did the lift method on her, and which is my modality. And I went back, and it was her great grandmother was abused to the point where her personality split. So I had to go in and heal this great grandmother and bring her personalities back and tell her that she is loved and protected and she will never be hurt again, right? And because when this woman first came to me, her energy was really dark and really low. And she said, "I don't even know why I'm here. I just came in to see you." So I saw her about a month later, and she had 2 beautiful little babies. And when I was driving up the street, and she was walking down, and she was so much lighter, and she was smiling, and she was playing with the kids, and I knew right then and there that there was this shift, right? So it's pretty amazing watching their transformations. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a complete 360 degrees. And what's so powerful about that is you didn't only heal her because you went back to the root and you healed the great grandmother. It healed everyone down that lineage. So I don't know if you ever spoke to her about her mother and if her mother is alive or not. But
yeah, she is.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you spoke to her about her mother, but if you did, share that. But I know that healing happened all the way down the lineage because when we do go back and heal the root, it heals all the way through. And exactly. That's, I don't know your exact technique, but I understand enough about it through my training to know the power of that kind of healing. And, some people might think, okay, this is crazy, that's impossible, but it's not. When we understand the power of our unconscious mind to store all of these memories all the way into our past lives and generational things, and the ability for us to heal it by healing at the root, how impactful and transformational that is. And people might think, well, help, taking a year to help me is a really long time, but it's not when you think of how long this has been going on for. A lifetime, multiple lifetimes.
Yeah, because I don't want them to go back into that old sadness again. And so you will feel amazing in the first 12 weeks. Like, can I show you my blueprint?
Sure.
It's right here. It's pretty simple. It's just 3 easy levels here, right? The triage, the tools, and transform. And each level has 3 steps. So this is the foundation of it, the triage.
The triage. I'm going to just, for listeners, for audio listeners, we've got triage at the bottom level, and there's 3 steps within that bottom level. So please explain the 3 steps there.
It's the first one is the assessment. So have you ever watched a medical show like Grey's Anatomy or House or anything like that? Yeah. Well, you know how there's an emergency and they run right in and all the doctors and nurses are running around trying to figure out what needs to be fixed first. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this is what we do in the assessment. We find out what needs to be fixed first. Okay? And then when you figure out what needs, like the most important thing, we get you into the alignment, which is the second level or the second step here. Okay? And then we map out your dream life.
Right.
So how do you want your dream life to be like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's so important because a lot of people would have a hard time answering that too, because they haven't ever stopped to think about their dream life because they're so busy being stuck in all the muck that they haven't it hasn't even been bright enough to think about a dream yet.
No. So I let them dream whatever they want to do, anything impossible, right?
Right.
So it's possible. So yeah. So we get you into the dream life. And then we move you to the awakening. Okay. And here is where we become aware of what is holding us back.
Right.
Okay. Have you ever procrastinated?
Of course.
Have you ever doubted yourself?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, in the awakening, we get rid of all that.
Right.
Yeah. So we take you from clarity to confidence so you can move forward. And then we move you up here to the tools.
Right.
Okay. So then we add to your toolbox. Okay. So here we educate. Okay.
Yes.
The first one is educate. So do you have a toolbox?
I have a toolbox, yes. And I use my toolbox to get rid of the doubt and the procrastination. It's just a different toolbox to yours, but yes.
So like, what would be in a typical toolbox? Like a hammer? Exactly.
A hammer, a screwdriver. Not the tools you're talking about or I'm talking about, yes.
So, well, metaphorically, anyway.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, like a hammer, we go and we can use that to smash those limiting beliefs, right? And like, there could be a wrench.
Yep.
So a wrench, we can go and loosen up those embedded emotions that are trapped inside your body that's making you sick and depressed and anxious, right? So once we bring everything up to the surface, we move over here to the experiment. And here we use the power tools. Have you ever used a power tool?
I haven't. I leave that to my husband.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, so like a power tool would be like a power saw. So with the power saw, we could go and we cut away all that sadness, cut away all that baggage, right? Because it's pretty heavy.
It is.
Yeah. And once you cut all that away, you're like elevating, right? So you come over here to elevate.
Right.
Yeah.
You're lighter, you're flying.
Exactly. And your emotions are like, ooh, right? So then we get that level out and we level out those emotions so that you can climb up that ladder, okay, to the transform. Okay. So here we take you out of your sadness and find you your happiness. Okay? Yeah. So transform, this is where all the magic happens. Okay. So up here in the buffer, this is where you realize all the changes that are happening inside of you. Okay. You feel more confident. more powerful. Right? And then we just buff away all that old darkness. That's residual darkness, right?
Right.
Yeah. So then we can shine your light to have, so you can have a barrier so that you can pick and choose what is in your zone. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And because if you want more money, you're going to attract more money.
Yeah.
If you want that healthy, happy relationship, you're going to get that, right? And all that old negative stuff, it's going to go just float away. Right? And then we want to keep you there. So we set strong boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this is the most important part, is the boundaries.
It is. And when I work with my clients, it's the part that is almost always lacking.
Yes, right. And they're like, no, I need boundaries now. And they're way down here. And it's like,
right.
No, you need to get rid of all of this first.
Right.
Before you can have boundaries, right?
Or they don't even know the value of boundaries and they don't have any, which is part of where they've ended up where they're at, etc.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, well, I love that program that you've put together. It's, very, very similar to what I do, but I love how you've charted it all out so that you can show people. So thank you so much for explaining it. And again, there's so much need for this in the world today. So the more of us that are out there helping people with this work, the better. And for people to know that it's available and they don't have to stay in that stuck, heavy place, feeling bogged down, and that they're not alone either. And it's to seek help is actually a sign of courage, not weakness, and a sign of strength, because it's you choosing you and wanting to move forward. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling like, wow, Angie's work really resonates with me and I need her help, I do encourage you to reach out and don't wait, because the longer you wait, the longer you stay stuck, but the more that has to be removed versus dealing with it now, so that process doesn't take as long and you can be flying and happy and living the life that you truly want. So I love it. Thank you for this work and thanks for explaining it in such detail. And Angie, don't wait for your wake-up call mean to you?
It means just do it. Like, it's time to be happy. It's time to live your life the way you want. It's time to get rid of that old sadness. Right? It's time to get rid of that baggage.
So true. And you know what? We are not supposed to go through life unhappy. We're supposed to go through life pain-free and happy. And we can do all of this when we look after our health, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, and we can truly thrive and live our best life. And it just becomes a choice. And you can choose to take action today to make that choice for yourself. So if people want to reach you, Angie, how do they do that?
I have a Facebook group called the Soulful Sisterhood Group. There is a whole bunch of amazing women in there. And even some transformation pictures of before and after from some women. And they really, some of my clients, they didn't really notice their transformation, but I could see it. And so I did a before and after picture, or before and now picture, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, it doesn't even look like me. It's not even the same person.
Yeah, it's so true. We don't see it in ourselves. We don't see our children grow. It's just when it happens slowly every day and you're looking in the mirror every day, you don't see it. But when it happens over 3 months and you see someone at the beginning of the 3 months and the end of the 3 months, those are the people that will notice it. So that's awesome that you took photos so that you could show it to them and they could see it for themselves. I love that.
Oh, really? Wow. And then I show other people and they're like, well, that's not the same person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how down the transformation is. So any last tips you'd like to leave with the audience today?
No matter how bad things are, you can still be happy. You can still break out of that comfort zone, break out of that box, and just go for it.
I love it. Because why do you want to sit in that box any longer anyway? It has you trapped. Break out and find that happiness. And there's people that can help you do that. So seek that help. Thank you very, very much, Angie, for being on the show and sharing your wisdom. I love it. I'll put all your contact information in the show notes for people. And thank you to my audience. I love the fact that you're here and listening and choosing to prioritize and optimize your health. And thank you for sharing this with others as well, because you never know who you might help by doing so.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me.
You're more than welcome. It's been a pleasure. If you're enjoying my content and someone that wants to step into being proactive in your health and learning more, I would love to invite you to join my membership community. There's a link in the show notes. For only $19.99 a month, you get access to all of my content, and there's a lot, as well as weekly calls that you can come and get your health questions answered. It's truly priceless. I'd love to see you join the community. Check out the link in the show notes.